Take your two whistles, and I'll give either of you, or both of you, a whistle in a moment. Yeah. So congratulations, enjoy the blowing, and enjoy the Titanic once you get it home.
Yes, you'll be able to thrill kids and have enormous fun with that one in the bath. And now, my very good friends, as many of you know, I believe you can't get enough Slade. No matter how jaded you are, no matter how limp, no matter how slack, Slade are the tonic that will get you standing to attention. They had it all, the grunt, the poke, and we're now joined by the man who provided the ball-peen hammer up front of Slade. This man once stuck reflectors on his hat and called himself a mirror ball. Planeteers, can you bang heads and hands together and welcome Noddy Holder! Yes, Noddy, thanks for coming on the show. Let's make a few years disappear. Let's go back to 1972. Let's go back to Top of the Pops. Let's go back to Slade.
Beautifully sung.
Beautifully executed.
Yeah.
Those clothes you were wearing there, in those days, could you walk into the studio, could you say, catch the bus to the BBC, get out of the bus in that gear, or did that have to come in a suitcase and you wore
Oh, no, we wore that all the time.
Did you? Yes,
yeah.
yes. And
I remember us doing a gig in Earl's Court, at the Earl's Court Arena, the first rock gig ever there. And 18,000 people turned up dressed like us. And you could imagine the tubes and the buzzies going to Earl's Court that day with everybody dressed like it. Any Martian would have landed from outer space. They'd have thought, what the bloody hell's going on here?
Now, look, we were talking earlier about Cliff, you know, begging for airplay.
I heard it. I quite like that record. I was dancing in the Pogo Lounge. I was dancing to it. I agreed with you, yeah.
Do you think it's fair that he do that, though? I mean, you know, really, I've got to say that I want to go and plant one on the bloke and say, get a life, get real, you know?
Well, I think what's happened with Cliff is he doesn't realise that some of the records he's making now, the reason they're not getting played is because they're crap.
Well, I'm with you on this one. Yes. Now, look, in Slade's case with airplay, radio airplay, did you ever have to beg for it?
No, we always got good airplay everywhere in the world. I mean, we did bring the odd duff record out, you know, and you're obviously not going to get play if you bring duff records out. Radio are not going to play crap records.
Yes.
But, I mean, Cliff and artists of that generation, they can't expect to get played on Radio 1. I mean, it's the wrong market for them, so, you know, they've just got to live with it, I'm afraid.
And these days, of course, you work on the radio. Has Cliff ever rung up and said, Noddy, how about giving him a spin for old time's sake? Or, you know, could you get out maybe wide for sound just to let people know that I'm still around and maybe
I wouldn't mind. I'd give him a spin for old time's sake. Of course, he's a sir now. We've got to keep him with him, haven't we?
Yes. What is top of the Noddy Holder wheels of steel at the radio?
What current bands?
Yes, what bands do you spin?
I like, well, my shows are mainly, I do a soul show.
Yes.
All black music.
Yes.
And I do a 70s show. But other current bands, I like bands like Fun Loving Criminals.
Yes.
I like Oasis a lot because they covered Come On Feel the Noise and made us a lot of money, so...
Yes. Did they do a good version of it, do you think?
They did an excellent version, actually. It was very good.
And how would you compare theirs, say, with Quiet Riot, who did a version of it in America?
Well, it was totally different. Quiet Riot's version was a carbon copy of ours. That went to #1 in the States, and I have heard, actually, that Quiet Riot's version is out again in the States with a rap act, and they've done a rap version, so it might chart all over again over there.
Yeah, I noticed there's a rich music hall tradition with your life, Noddy. I mean, you were performing, I think, when you were 7 or 8 years old.
I started performing when I was 7 in working men's clubs. Yeah.
Yes, singing songs, I think you might have said...
Chart hits of the day, really. Frankie Lane, I Believe, stuff like that.
Yeah, in a, what, a falsetto or...
Well, it would be when I was 7, yeah. It was very high-pitched.
Yeah. And you learnt that you wanted to either make people laugh or make them cry.
Well, I think that's the old adage with showbiz. You either make them laugh or make them cry, and then they go away happy one way or the other.
Yeah.
I used to make them cry when I was 7. I don't know whether that's because I was 7 and singing a high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
But I made them cry when I was with Slade as well. I had tears. For different reasons.
So were you a boy soprano?
I suppose you could call me a boy soprano, yeah.
And
one of the best reviews I ever had in America was that chap, that lead singer out of Slade. His voice sounds like a fingernail going down a blackboard, which I took as a compliment.
Yes. Well, it is a controlled screaming, wasn't it?
It is, sort of, yes.
Did that bugger up your throat? I mean...
There was one time it really let me down. We'd done about 6 months of touring in Europe, then we went to America and we did 18 shows on the trot.
Yeah.
And my voice really started getting croaky, and they sent me to this singing coach in New York, this old professor, who didn't know what rock and roll was about at all, and I was in the waiting room waiting to go and see him, and he was training all these Broadway musical stars, and Cheetah Rivera was in there doing all their scales, la 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 la. Then he drags me in next, and he said, can you let me know sort of how you sing? And I said, well, give me a chord on the piano. And I gave him the opening bars of Get Down and Get With It, which, well, all right, everybody! And he said, how long you been singing like that? And I said, well, at the time, it was about 13 years. I said, 13 years? He said, there's nothing I can do for you. Go away if you've been singing like that for 13 years.
So I was going to say, with songwriting, you... it was really a formula, wasn't it, Noddy? You'd write a hook. You had to get a hook in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And no guitar solo was over 20 seconds long.
Correct.
And it had to have a melody to it that people could sing as well.
Correct.
Was that the formula?
That was more or less the formula. It came from our manager, really, Chas Chandler. He told us that we could encapsulate our stage act in a 3-minute song. We'd get it records.
Yep.
So that's what we tried to do. And it did, I suppose it did become a formula, but we did have a lot of different sort of songs. People always think we had hits with really heavy, raucous rock songs, but we had a lot of ballad hits as well.
I read that you pinched Prince on the bum.
I did.
How did he react?
He sort of ignored me.
Did he?
Yes.
What,
He walked past me. I was sitting down, but he was only as high as me sitting down when he walked past. And I just give him a little tweak. It was very nice, Bum, actually.
Yes. And I believe
He did squeak.
Yeah. I believe Susie Quattro once described you or said to you that you were a disgrace to your nation.
No, it wasn't Susie Quattro, actually. It was Chrissie Hynde.
Oh, Chrissie Hynde, you're right.
Chrissie Hynde out of Pretenders. We were doing a television show in, I think it was in Holland or Belgium. And we got very, very drunk because this show was had a bar set up in the middle of the studio, and we were last to go on, so all the artists had to sit round this bar drinking. So we were on after an hour, we'd been drinking away, and we all got very, very drunk, and we had to perform Merry Christmas, everybody, on this show, and it did get a bit chaotic, and the whole audience loved it, and the television people loved it. But Chrissie Hynde come up to us after and said, you're a disgrace to your country, which we took as a compliment, because...
Look, you toured Australia. I think it might have been 72 or 73 with an unlikely...
First time we went there, yeah.
Unlikely lineup of, I think it was you, Caravan, Status Quo and Lindisfarne from memory.
Yes.
And you were so big, this tour was so big, it had to play race courses to fit everybody in. Can you actually remember much of this tour?
Very little.
Yes, it's nothing.
We spent 28 hours on the plane getting there, and we didn't know till we got to Australia that we had the number 1, 2 and 3 single there, and we had the number 1 and 2 album all at the same time, and we didn't realise till we got off the plane. And we'd had 28 hours travelling, drinking beer all the way. We got off the plane, and what's the first thing the Aussies wanted us to do? A barrel load of beer, a barrel load of Fosters, and they wanted us to have some press shots took of that. So, you know, that's what summed Australia up to me. It was just beer drinking mayhem.
Now, rock stars often go mad.
They do, yeah.
How close were you blokes to going mad? Because it was, you know, flying for 28 hours, getting drunk, 100,000 people to see you, back into the hotel room, nothing to do, can't go out again, 100,000 people, go back into your room, nothing to do, go out, 100,000 people, onto the plane again, somewhere else, 100,000, you know what I mean? Were you close to going crazy?
Well, it is tour madness. We used to call it tour madness. About halfway through a tour, you reach a peak of madness. When you see the end of the tour in sight, you sort of wind down slightly.
We know how you feel, Noddy.
But you do, you know...
And how did the madness express itself? Did you ever throw a bloody television set out?
I've actually never thrown a television out of a bedroom window.
Did you drive a car?
I actually don't know anybody that has.
Well, I
think it's a bit of a...
It's great fun.
Yeah.
It's great fun. If you ever get that, it's terribly satisfying. I've only done it, you know, I should say, you know, obviously, you know, working in the business, I have done it in professional circumstances. I haven't had the thrill of being on a Holiday Inn and running the lead, you know, out of the roadies truck to get it all the way down to see if it'll fall all the way down with the picture on and then at the bottom of the pool still work.
Well, I
have thrown, if you ever get a chance to throw a television through a plate glass window, it's well worth getting in the front of the queue.
Yeah, I could imagine so.
Have you ever driven a car into a pool?
I've not done personally, but I know Keith Moon did it regularly, and Keith Moon was excellent at blowing up bogs and blowing up toilets.
Yes.
He had it down to a fine art.
Yes. Yes.
One of our road crew, their best trick, which was... it was a horrible trick they used to play on everybody all the time, so you always used to have to keep your bedroom door locked. They always loved to shit in your sink after you'd gone to sleep. So when you got up in the morning and you went to the sink and it was there in the morning...
Have you ever had one left in your bed, you come in late, you know, pull the sheets back and there it is?
No, I haven't had that one, but that must be worse still.
Noddy, we could bang on all night about music, caper, and probably will over a couple of large ones upstairs in the Squeeze Me, Please Me bar of the Pogo Lounge Post-Shooter. But for now, Planeteers, can you come on, feel the noise with the heads and the hands as a way of thanking Noddy Holder?